do a quick video this morning. It's been a few days. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Listen to your heart. When God's speaking to you, you gotta, you gotta listen. I had quite a situation happen. I'll just get into it. I I'd gone out to see my parents, and I flew out because it's 8.5, 9 hour drive. So I flew out, and wasn't too awful bad. I have to fly from Beaumont to Dallas, then Dallas to Abilene. Not too awful bad usually. Get in just fine. Spend time with my parents, get everything lined up we wanted to get done, and I head back. Thursday morning, supposed to have my flight leave at like right at 11 o'clock. Everything's on time. We get on the plane, we taxi out, we stop. Pilot announces, yeah, we're going to have to wait about 30 minutes. Air traffic's closed down at DFW. But we'll get you there, folks. Thank you very much. We sit there well over 30 minutes, and finally we start moving. Everybody's like, all right, here we go. Well, we go back to the terminal. And they say, yeah, we had an indicator light come on, so, but we're going to Dallas. We just let us get some maintenance done. This is now noon, and you start getting updates, on your phones. Okay, we're going to leave at 12:25. Then you get one that says, no, we're going to leave at 1:15. Then you get one that says, no, we're going to leave at 2 something. Right? I have a connecting flight to come to Beaumont at 2:15, because we leave, we're supposed to get there at noon, and then, hour and a half wait, go to Beaumont. I'm home by 2 o'clock. Well, we missed those flights, obviously. So they rebook us, automatically rebook me for a 6 o'clock flight. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Hang around 4 or 5 hours in DFW. Right, I can pull this off. So we get there from the gate, no big deal, chilling out. All of a sudden, Kathy texts me with an update. Says, oh, your flight's been moved up from like 6:15 to 7. So, well, okay. You get another one. Well, it's been bumped up from 7 to 8. Then it's 8 to 9. And then it's 9 to 10. And then we finally get the last one. They sent us as we were supposed to leave DFW at like 12:30. Get home at 2. Wake and bake with you guys as usual. So sitting there getting all these updates, kind of a trip, right? So I have my backpack. I'm laying on the floor. My back's killing me. It's been a long day. This guy comes and sits down in the chairs right there by me. He gets his stuff all together, and I'm just laying there listening to music. And I look over, and he's reading a book. He's reading a Christian book. And lately, I've been having a little bit of PTSD. No big deal. Just only had a couple of incidents in my career that I, would consider, could be a trauma thing for you. But every once in a while, this pops up in my head, and I'm like, it starts me crying. It's not much fun. It's okay. So I text Kathy, and I tell her, and she's like, well, since when has this been happening? And I said, last few months. I'm okay. I just, I'm telling you. And she's like, wow, she, through her work, she sees a therapist there, I think once a month, because the corporate pressure up there is pretty tough. She needs to talk to somebody about things that things can't necessarily talk about with me. So I'm telling her this in text. And she's like, well, hey, back, we'll figure out something. I'm like, okay, it's not an emergency thing. It's not a big deal. And I'm sitting there and just get this overwhelming message. Talk to that guy. Just go talk to that guy. And I battle with it for a few minutes. I'm like, God don't want to talk to me about nothing. He's sitting there in the airport reading his book. So finally, I get up the courage and I go sit down beside him and I go, excuse me. See, you're reading a Christian-based book there. Yeah. We struck up a conversation. And to say that this was a divine intervention is not stretching it. It's not stretching it. We start talking. And it turns out he's from Arkansas. Well, we lived in Arkansas for a few years. That's no correlation. That's no big deal. But it turns out he was a captain in the fire department. And that fire department, he was EMT, worked on ambulance. And something I had always wondered about, because in surgery, when you get called out for emergency surgery, who's usually first ones on the scene? There's a cop usually on the scene first, and then they call the EMTs, the EMTs in, and everybody gets there. They bring them to the hospital. They decide, okay, they're coming to us. Nobody ever designates the emergency call teams in the operating room as first responders. We just don't get clumped in with the first responders. But we're the one that are tasked with, okay, you guys did your job well. You got them to us. Now we're going to have to, we got to do our job. I'm going to save them. You've already done everything you could to keep them alive. Now we've got to do everything to perpetuate life in them. And I've always wondered, because if those guys felt like I felt, I've always felt like, we do the surgery, the patient leaves, they're alive. What happens after that? How does things go? They do okay? Do they struggle? You just wonder. We'll come and find out he feels the same way. He's felt like once they were released, to the hospital, and what happened? Everybody always wants to know in the back of your mind, what happened? Did they live? Did they die? Did they have a decent outcome? So we start heading on this common ground. We'll come to find out this guy has a ministry, and he ministers to the first responder groups, and they have therapy for him, and they have, because he's got some trauma too. When you sit there and exchange stories, the things we don't understand, we never get to see. It's like he said, when they roll up on a scene and there's nothing they can do. Literally. I mean, don't even try, right? That's rough. That's tough, So we sit there and we talk about a godsend. I mean, that guy, we had one of the best conversations. He had never heard of preterism. He was in the old theology that it was Christ still hasn't returned. I didn't even start with flat earth on the guy. We were doing therapy. No reason to traumatize him anymore. I didn't even bring it up. But Kathy's sitting there saying, you need, we'll get you a counselor, we'll get you some therapy. And I tell her, yeah, we'll see, we'll see. And I look up and God sent me a therapist 10 feet away. And that was very, that was very important at that moment because of the stress of the flights and all that, just stressing out big time. And wow, 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 wow. Thank you, Lord. You know, me and him had a good hug, and it was well worth it. He gave me his card. I'm not, I'm gonna keep in touch with him. Great guy, super guy. And so we're talking about our situation, and he had just gotten back from the Philippines, and his flight, he was purposely sitting there because his next flight wasn't leaving until 10:30 Friday morning. Yeah, he wasn't leaving until 10:30 Friday morning, so he was going to sleep right there. He was just staying there. So I sit there, and as this perpetuation of not leaving keeps going, I'm talking with Kathy, and I finally say, I'm only a little over 4 hours. Hold on. Y'all hear that dog? Would you stop sitting there, Wyman? No, no, no. Good Lord. I know that comes through on the speakers. I found that out before. Sorry about that. So as these were getting delayed, I finally say, look, we're only about 4.5 hours from home. I'm gonna rent a car. I'm gonna come on home. Well, it's been raining. That's why all the delays been raining like all heck. So I make the executive decision. I'm gonna go get a vehicle and I'm gonna drive home. So I do. Go get me a vehicle. I'm talking to him and get in the vehicle and I'm like, okay, I just want a one way. You're like, okay, where to? And I tell him, Orange home. He's like, yeah, we don't have a deal there. I said, well, what is it, Houston? Bush International? And he says, yeah, you can return it there. Well, that's 2.5 hours from home. So I'm like, oh, crap. So, man, we got an Enterprise. We got a couple other ones. He goes, well, I'll put it under Enterprise. Nice guy, man. He goes, well, when you get home, take it to them first thing, when they first open, and see if they'll just keep it. He says, a lot of times they'll keep it and use it. And he says, and I'll upgrade you and we'll pick a nice one, something they'll want to keep. And I was like, man, I appreciate that, man. That's a heck of a nice thing to do. So I get my vehicle and I head home. And it's raining. And it's raining. And it's raining. And this is now, by the time I got my car, I'm on the road about a little after 1 o'clock. I had no 1 o'clock. Supposed to get home, I think my GPS at 4:50, right? Almost 5 in the morning. So I take off, and it's raining, and I'm driving, and it's raining, and I come about 1:30. I'm just like, this rain is too hard. You know how you get driving in the rain? It's dark. My neck, my shoulders, everything's killing me. So I've been communicating with Kathy, and I text her, and I say, I'm next town. I'm gonna pull over. I'm either gonna just lay down in the back, or I'm gonna get a room. So going to this little town, and I see a motel, and I see there's only 3 or 4 cars there. So yeah, they got a room. So I pull in, get me a room. Now, this is lower end motel, guys. Small town, low end motel. Get my room, and it's a non-smoking, but it smells like it's smoking. I get in bed. The sheets stink so bad of smoke. They're clean and crisp and white and all that, but they smell like cigarette smoke. So I lay there and I toss and turn for about 2 hours, and I never get to sleep. So about 4:30, I make another executive decision. I'm like, I'm only 2.5 hours from home. Let's go. I got up, headed home. Kathy texted when she got up, hey, where are you? So I'll be there in about 30, 45 minutes. She's like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm on my way. I didn't sleep in or nothing. I couldn't sleep. So I head home. And then I get back, I come home, and she goes to work. I lay down. I can't, I can't fall asleep. You know how it is. Can't get to sleep. So I just get up and I say, I'm going to take this vehicle back. So I go take it back. I go in and just again, just the nicest people. I tell them the story and they're like, sure, we'll take the car. And I was like, man, that is so cool. And he's processing it. And I go, oh, man. So I didn't know if y'all would do this or not. So I don't have a ride home. Eh, we'll take you. We'll take you home. Thanks, guys. I tip everybody. Make sure they understand how much I appreciate it. So we had a couple of days there that were never. I think they were just test of faith. Am I gonna listen? I'm in a situation. It's uh, it's just been manifesting lately. It's not a big deal. No crisis is going on. But what I needed at the time, the Lord provided, and I just had to recognize that. Okay, this is gonna work out in a while. What a What a perfect opportunity. What are the chances that this guy does counseling for first responders? And when I told him, you know, the emergency teams in the operating room, we kind of get forgot about in the first responder deal. This is a process, right? And it ends, the worst cases end with us, you know. And I just told myself, nobody recognizes us. Nobody knows who we are. They don't even know we exist. Everybody thinks that once they hit the hospital, it's doctors and nurses that, take care of everything. Well, surgical technologists are there too, and a good surgical technologist can make or break an emergency. If you panic and you are not up on all your skills, no matter what comes through that door, you can be a detriment to that patient, making it or not. I've been there before. I've come in the morning for my shift, and the emergency team is in the operating room still working. And oh my God, you walk in, and there are instruments all over the room. They've opened up 15 different pans of instruments, trying to figure out what pan had what they needed, because they weren't up on all the skills. I mean, you don't know what's going to roll through the door in emergencies. And I come in and take over, and jeez, what a mess. The surgeon's confused. He's tired, worn out. I get in there and we get everything straightened out. We get them, we get it finished up. But the poor tech, the stress, oh my God, that's a trauma for her, big trauma. This patient came in with ectopic pregnancy, and they were doing laparoscopy on them. And this was a skill that they didn't have. The surgeon, the tech, the nurse, none of them had been in a situation and were able to understand that in a laparoscopic situation, if they've been bleeding in there and there's clots in there and there's blood in there, you cannot use a large scope because the blood absorbs all the light. You have no light, you can't see. So you have to use a little 5mm scope till you get everything cleaned up and you can see. Well, nobody in the room understood that. And when I walked in, they had opened up about 5 or 6 cameras, light cords, scopes. They thought the equipment was broke. They'd been in there about 4 hours, and they thought the equipment was broken. They were struggling. Should have been about a 20-minute case, and they'd been there 4 hours. And so I came in, I'm like, whoa, freeze, stop. We got to switch cameras, or, scopes. We got to switch scopes. We can only go to 5mm. We need 2 suctions in here, not just one. We need 3,000 liter bag of warm freaking saline. And so we start suctioning and irrigating and cleaning up. We get it cleaned up. We find right there's the bleed. We clamp, cut that, cauterize it. We're out of there. I'd had to be trauma for those people. Had to be. But it's those kind of things that it never happened to me, but I'll have a dream that I'm in that situation. I have no idea what to do, and everybody's struggling, and they're hollering at me, and the patient's life, is dangling there, and that's a bunch of good buffoons. Can't get it done. But the problem in the dream is mine. It's me. I'm the problem. And that's terrible. I hate those. Because I've been in some pretty sticky emergency situations, and me and the surgeons and the nurses, what a good team. We work well together. Saved lives, saved a lot of lives. And it's one of those deals at the time. It's not, they needed this fixed. Their life wasn't in danger. I always tell myself, this is not life-threatening. This is just a procedure. Let's just do it like any other. No panic, no hurries, no mistakes. No mistakes. And it wasn't until well after, like I said, after my career, I was done, I retired, that I started having any kind of dreams about in a negative context. But it happens. That's the way our mind works. You see these things day after day after day. Even the just elective procedures when you cut someone's flesh open, and and you're dealing in there. It's I realize it, but that hangs on. And I always laughed at people that just faint at the sight of blood. Right? They can't take anything like that. And it's like, wow. For those people, it's so traumatic. It's an immediate response. And I guess there's the spectrum, and there's us out here that I've yet to see anything that I can't look at. And it had been that way for me since day one. I don't know what it was, but I was able to. Because funny story, and that's a link on that. When I was in high school, during a football game, one of my best buddies had a appendicitis, Robert Gomez, and they're taking him off on a stretcher in the football game, and off in an ambulance he goes, and we don't know if he's physically hurt, he's broken a rib, whatever, because he's holding it. We don't know what's up. But the next day we go to the hospital and see him, and appendicitis. They took his appendix out, and he's resting. And we all, 4 or 5 of us, go up there to visit him. And it's all good. And we're sitting there, and lab people come in. They're going to draw blood. Of course, high school kids. She's like, I'm going to draw his blood. Y'all may want to step out. We're all, what? Not us. We want to see you stick this punk. We want to see him cry, So she's, okay, go ahead. I'm just sitting there in the chair. I can see everything. And when that needle went in, and she buried it all the way up to the hub, put that little tube on there and started pumping blood. 17-year-old Tommy Gartman got all woozy. I got all sweaty. I was about to pass out. I didn't pass out, but boy, that didn't work well. Fast forward 5 years, I'm in surgical tech school. We get to go to St. Mary's in Lubbock for our first just put on scrubs, put a mask on. Somebody takes you into an operating room, and you get to stand against the wall and see what you see, watch what you watch. You know, we're watching the surgical tech and what they're doing. Well, the first one I go into is a total hip, and I'm just standing there, and they're telling the surgeon and the rest of their crew who I am, this student, and the surgeon, nice guy, man. He goes, "You want to scrub in?" I said, "Oh, yes, sir. I want to scrub in." And my preceptor, she says, "You know how to scrub good? You know, a gown and glove?" I said, "Yeah, hell yeah, I do." And so she's like, "Let's go." And she watched me scrub, and I knew how to scrub my hands properly. You know, they're watching me like a hawk, right? I'm a student. I knew how to gown and glove properly. And the surgeon says, "Okay, right up here." I go right up beside him, and they hand him that knife, and he goes, and it was a pretty chunky lady, and boy, that skin opened up, big old, all that cellulite in there. And I was like, that was so cool. Oh my God. And it was because I saw a total hip first thing, hands on, that I loved orthopedics. They broke out the saw, cut the head off that femur. They brought out the reamers, big old drills, and man, mallets, knocking, hammering, drilling, cutting. Oh, that was fun. I loved it. I was hooked. No drama. No big deal. Didn't bother me at all. And when they cut her open, there was 2 or 3 little arteries just spewing, shooting blood. Ooh, cauterized. Yeah, pretty cool. So, you know, I never really considered anything I saw as traumatic to me. It was traumatic for that patient. Yeah, hell yeah. But for me, I never had PTSD. I'm like, not for me. Okay, soldiers and stuff, cops, EMTs, I can see all those guys because they've seen it up close. They go on to scenes where we don't get called out. Ain't no need for us. But when we do, I mean, we're in there with them. Every time on a first response, does it end up coming to us? No, of course not. But the ones that do are the worst of the worst, that they're still clinging to life. That's the thing. If they come to us, they're pretty much clinging to life. And I never registered in my mind that could be a future trauma to me. And when it started manifesting, the Lord put somebody there for me. That was pretty cool. Pretty freaking cool, man. The Lord's watched over me my whole life. I know that for sure. I could sit here and talk for 2 or 3 hours about just things since I was probably 12 years old. At the Lord, He was there with me. One of the first ones was my brother. We were back behind the grocery store my mom worked at in the city park in Big Spring, and my brother, he loved fishing. So he had his little rod with him. I didn't ever fish. I didn't care for it. Just didn't. Sorry, people who love fishing. But he's sitting there fishing, and I'm hanging around, probably skipping rocks, messing up his fishing for sure. And his line gets hung, and he's trying to pull it loose, reach out as far as he can, and he can't get it quite loose. So he takes off his shoes. He don't want to get his shoes wet. And he just step in a little further. He takes his first step, and he comes back out of the water and falls on his back. And he's holding his foot up, and he had stepped on a piece of glass, and it just about cut his whole toe off. And I immediately sprung into action. I took my shirt off. I wrapped his foot with my shirt as tight as I could, put him on my back, and I hiked his ass. It was about quarter of a mile, eighth or quarter of a mile from there to the grocery store. And I come flying in the front door with him on my back, blood's dripping a trail behind him. Hollering, Mom, Mom, Mom. And she sees me coming. Everybody in grocery store sees us coming, and drop him there by my mom, and his big toes cut off, and they can't see it, but it's enough blood. And like, we can go to the hospital. Her boss picks up my brother, runs, puts him in the car, his car. My mom jumps in. I jump in. We take him up to the hospital, and they sew his toe back on, and they saved it. They saved his toe, and he still got his big toe because of me. And I'm telling you guys, I still remember it like it was yesterday. As soon as I saw that, it just kicked in. God took over and told me exactly what to do. And I had every bit of the strength needed to carry my bigger, older brother, a good distance, for that situation. And pulled it off. We pulled it off. So that kind of stuff, the Lord's been with me. He's been with me. What if he'd had a sister? Maybe she'd have pulled it off the same way. Maybe. But the Lord blesses me. I mean, you can go back to my first earliest videos I ever did, and I'll tell you, it's all true. The Lord has blessed me. I've been blessed my whole life. I've tried to mess it up. I've made some bad decisions, and luckily, the Lord's hand was there, and I just skirted trouble that could affect my rest of my life, but it didn't. And I give all glory to God. That was just Him watching over this soul, and I am trying my best to tell the world about Him. And when I feel His presence and He guides me to a man that's been through what I've been through, and we can talk, and eases my mind, that man's mind, confirms both of us that the Lord's working in the people who love Him. And we just have to recognize, when he's intervening, when he feels our pain, and just listen to your gut. Listen when He talks to you. People are, the atheists, non-believers, are sure your God talks to you, and they always think this booming voice still. No, He puts it on our heart, and we're motivated in the proper way because we believe His word. And He told us he wrote His word on our hearts, and if we'll just understand, what do you say? How would you say it? Connect with that. Connect with that spirit, because He wants our obedience. He wants to know us in spirit. He could care less if I enjoy playing golf. He could care less unless I'm using it for His glory. He could care less, but he cares for us. He wants us. He wants us to have as smooth a path, and He wants us to bring us joy. I think if I remember it properly, I had watched a deal one time, and a guy was doing some explaining, theorizing, clarification on sorry, excuse me, on Christ and His display of emotion. And I thought it was pretty, insightful that in the Bible, when it describes Jesus and His reactions, you don't You don't see any verses, as far as I remember this deal, of him being happy with what just happened. You don't see him displaying joy over situations. You don't see him, I guess, being enthused for things that are happening or gonna happen. But you do see he got angry and flipped over the tables. There is a verse where it merely says, "And Jesus wept." And I was like, well, yeah, I guess that's true. And the guy explained it, saying that the reason he never showed joy, happiness, or anything like that was because he was that. He is joy, he is happiness, and we should seek him. And when he saw what the Pharisees and they were doing to the temple, he, he got upset. And then when he was betrayed, he wept. But he is the joy. He is the love that we should seek. He is the pure light. And that's what we should be seeking. And I guess the way he explained it was he couldn't seek what he was. He could only give what he was. He sought obedience from us. Is our obedience and our love for him and worship him. He didn't. It's a free gift, and it's of your choosing. And when you do it, it just brings those things to your life: joy, happiness, security, love, all that. Grandchildren like I have now, that's so much joy. That's something that's so precious and amazing that it could only come from God's hand. And ain't no way we were an accident. There ain't no way there was some stupid Big Bang. God, the Jesuits. God, we won't start in on that. Who started the whole Big Bang stuff? But I guess I'm just thankful that, and I told my dad this weekend, or this week, that I told him I appreciate you and Mom taking me and Dean to church from the time we were little and introducing us to the Word of God, and us witnessing other Christians come to our home, do Bible studies. We saw those kind of things early. But it was crazy the way the world works. We hit the 80s, man, and my parents went right with it. They quit going to church. They they started drinking more. They would go out on weekends with friends and go dancing. They always like to go to the country music places and go dancing at the honky tonks. And they weren't. Wow. I mean, those years. Through my high school years, my parents, hell, they partied more than I did. It was weird the way they just walked away from God. They didn't go back to church. They didn't. I guess when me and my brother quit going to church, sleeping in on Sunday, and they quit arguing with us, they stayed in bed too. And then all of a sudden they were staying in bed because they drank too much the night before. And they got away from God. And then I moved out when I was 18, and so when we left the house, I didn't get back to God till, oh gosh, right after me and Kathy got married and had Alex. I finally, bam, I made some mistakes, and I better get back to the Lord. I'm glad to say that I have not. I I have not made those same mistakes again. But it's really, 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 really important for you to go with those feelings, those impulses when it's a good, positive, loving Christian thing. Don't hold back. I'm not saying go after every impulses in your head, but when it's things like that, that was amazing. That was amazing for me and him. That was a great confirmation for him. He really, he came to tears, a couple of times. And he was able to tell me some things that he hadn't been able to tell other people because he knew I'd seen it. He knew I knew where he was. And that was, thank you, Lord. That was well timed. It couldn't have been a better situation. Because if we're not in that stressful situation, if we're not in that turmoil and seeking peace and seeking, understanding at that time, and patience, and we're both in that situation, and we see each other. The Lord said, there you go. Take comfort in me. Pretty cool. Lord takes care of us. I ain't gonna lie. But, well, that's about all I got for today. I get discouraged sometimes and think, nobody's watching. But if one more person, just like the other night with that man, that's all it takes. It's cool. All cool. All right, guys. Love y'all. Good discernment. Good vibrations. Take care.